Welcome to the KAEP, where we break down the weekly matchups in the PVFL. I'm your host, John Gillespie. And guys, we have a lot to get into. We are going to recap the week 2 of the season in the PVFL, and we're going to go over the weekly matchups, give out our weekly awards, and as well look ahead to week 3 in the PVFL. So we do have a lot to get into, but before we do, I'd like to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Chicken Milk. Unleash the power of the chicken today with Chicken Milk, the nation's #1 performance enhancing supplement. And also a shout out to our producer, Pete Serpa. Thank you, Peter, for all that you do in making this podcast possible. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a lot to get into, so let's dive right in to our game of the week. The Little Lamb takes on the Heart Attack Pack. Congratulations to you, Ethan Lopez, for pulling off the victory, 130.7 to 116.8. Ethan, your top performer is none other than Rolling with my homies, 443 yards and 4 touchdowns to the tune of 31.6 fantasy points. Guys, fun fact, Patrick Mahomes outperformed most fantasy quarterbacks alone in the second quarter. Just ridiculous stuff right there. Congratulations to you, Ethan, for pulling off that stunning mid-week trade to bring in Patrick Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins. And for you, Jared, your top performer was Julio the Machine Jones, 5 catches, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns to the tune of 27.6 fantasy points. Guys, do you remember when it was a household name that Julio Jones would get tons of receptions and yards but never any touchdowns? That seems to be a thing of the past because Julio Jones is scoring touchdowns on a weekly basis. Ethan, with the victory, you improved to 2-0, and Jared, with the loss, you fall to 1-1. Moving on to the next game on the tally, What's Cookin' takes on the Chido Squad. Congratulations to you, Julio, for pulling off the victory, 130.5 over 75.7. For you, Austin, your top performer was Michael Thomas. He had 10 receptions for 89 yards to the tune of 18.9 fantasy points. The loss of Drew Brees for about 6 to 8 weeks is going to hurt you, Austin. But let's be honest, you really didn't have a shot this season anyways. And for you, Julio, your top performer is none other than Dalvin Cook. 154 yards and a touchdown to the tune of 28.1 fantasy points. Julio, your impressive rookie season continues. You improve to 2-0. And Austin, you fall to 0-2. Moving on to the next game on the tally, Peppermint Barkley takes on Once You Go Dak, You Never Go Back, or I like to call him the Dak Squad. Corbin, you pull off the victory, 117.9 to 100, and Corbin, your top performer, is no surprise here. The Wrath of Quan himself, Saquon Barkley, 107 yards and a touchdown to the tune of 22.5 fantasy points. And for you, John, your top performer was the Dak man himself, Dak Prescott, 27.7 fantasy points on 269 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. We'll see if that trade pays dividends for you, Mr. Walton. With the victory, Corbin, you improve to 1-1, and with the loss, John, you fall to 0-2. Moving on to the next game on the tally, Welcome to Ertz takes on Lady Lagsire. Congratulations to Ethan Taylor for pulling off the victory, 137.9 to 82. Ethan, your top performer was Aaron Jones, my boy, 116 yards and a touchdown to the tune of 25 fantasy points. And right on his heels was Tom Brady with 24.7 fantasy points. Very close there. And for you, Kamala, your top performer was Zeke the Freak, 111 yards and a touchdown to the tune of 20 fantasy points. With the victory, Ethan Taylor, you improved to 1-1. And with the loss, Kamala, you fall to 0-2. Moving on to the next game on the tally, Shaken Bakers takes on the Chief. Congratulations to the Chief for pulling off the victory, 122.9 to 103.2. Pedro, your top performer, was none other than the surprising Mark Andrews once again. 8 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown to the tune of 25.2 fantasy points. Pedro, it looks like you struck gold with Mark Andrews, your last pick in the draft, and he's been a stud for you so far. And for you, Jamie, your top performer was OBJ himself, 6 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown to the tune of 28.1 fantasy points. With the victory, the Chief improves to 1-1, and with the loss, Jamie falls to 1-1. And going to the final game of the tally, last but not least, Orange Crush takes on the reigning defending champ Lambeau Calrissian. Congratulations to Lambeau Calrissian for pulling off the victory in dominating fashion, 150 to 111.5. Lambeau Calrissian, your top performer was the New England Patriots DST. 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a shutout to the tune of a week high 35 fantasy points. And for you, Juan, your top performer was Lamar Jackson, 272 yards and 2 touchdowns to the tune of 30.9 fantasy points. It looks like you've learned your lesson in benching this stud, but it did not make a difference for you this week, my friend. With the victory, the defending champion improves to 2-0, and with the loss, Orange Crush falls to 1-1. Alright guys, so that wraps up our weekly recap of week 2. Now we're going to go right into our weekly awards. Congratulations to Lambeau Calrissian for earning this honor 2 weeks in a row. He gets it this week for starting the New England Patriots DST. As we mentioned this earlier, a shutout with 4 interceptions and 2 touchdowns to the tune of 35 fantasy points. What a start there for you, my friend. And congratulations to Shaken Bakers for earning our Sit of the Week for sitting Nelson Aguilar. 8 receptions, 107 yards, and a touchdown to the tune of 24.7 fantasy points. Alright guys, those are our weekly awards, and we are going to look ahead to our week 3 matchups in the PVFL. This week coming up, we got Lady Lagsire taking on the undefeated champion Lambeau Calrissian. Then we have the Little Lamb, the undefeated Little Lamb, taking on Austin Bennett and What's Cooking. We got the Heart Attack Pack MVP taking on the Dak Squad. We have Peppermint Barkley facing off against the Chido Squad. And then we have Welcome to Earths versus Shaken Bakers. And last but not least, we have the Battle of the Brothers, the Guzman Bowl. Orange Crush takes on the Chief. Alright guys, those are our week 3 matchups, and our week 3 game on Thursday night kicks off with the Tennessee Titans taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's this Thursday at 5:15. So guys, set your lineups, do your research, and that's all we have for this episode of The Cap. I am your host, John Gillespie, and I will see you on the other side.